What if I told you that your grandmother knew something that billion-dollar corporations, government agencies, and modern scientists spent decades trying to hide from you? What if the woman who raised your parents in a small kitchen with flour-dusted hands and an apron full of common sense was actually operating at a level of chemical and biological intelligence that would make a PhD blush? Today, we are counting down 25 of the most suppressed, dismissed, and outright banned household hacks from the 1960s, all centered around one incredibly simple, dirt-cheap white powder that grandmothers across America swore by. And here is the wildest part. Scientists are now quietly admitting she was right all along. We are talking about calcium carbonate, the active ingredient in limestone, chalk, and the white powder Grandma kept in a bucket near the garden shed. In the 1960s, when the petrochemical industry was exploding, when corporations needed you to buy new products, when planned obsolescence was a boardroom strategy, and when the federal government was quietly backing industries that needed consumers to consume, grandmas everywhere were solving problems for pennies. Some of these hacks were banned by homeowners associations. Some were dismissed by doctors. Some were literally laughed out of county extension offices. But decades later, science backs every single one of them up. Let us start counting down from 25. Number 25. Acidic coffee fix. Here is the most underrated hack on this entire list, and the one that sounds the most absurd until you understand the chemistry. Grandma would take a pot of bitter, overbrewed coffee and add a tiny trace of calcium carbonate, less than a grain of salt. She wasn't crazy. She was managing the brew's pH level. Coffee is naturally acidic around pH 4 to 5. Calcium carbonate is alkaline. This reacts with chlorogenic and quinic acids, the main culprits behind harsh, biting bitterness. This reaction neutralizes the bite without altering the desired flavor profile. Modern specialty coffee roasters have now rediscovered this. Gastroenterologists recommend it for patients with acid reflux who still want their morning cup. The reason this was quietly discouraged in the 1960s? Coffee companies were selling new blends and pre-ground products marketed as smooth and balanced. A powder that cost nothing threatened that entire narrative. Number 24. The Old Master's Gesso. Grandma made her own gesso by slow-cooking calcium carbonate with animal glue in a double boiler, applying thin layers to panels or canvas. Once dried and sanded, this bright white absorbent ground allowed for the translucent glazing techniques of the old masters, a bond oil paints can't achieve with modern versions. While today's gesso relies on synthetic fillers and acrylic polymers, art conservators are returning to Grandma's formula for its unreplicated results. Number 23. Peat Bed Deodorizer. In the 1960s, Grandma didn't buy expensive chemical sprays. She simply lifted the dog bed and sprinkled a layer of calcium carbonate on the floor. By working a small amount into the fabric, she neutralized acidic odors from dander oils and urine on contact. This powder absorbs the moisture bacteria need to thrive, stopping the wet dog smell at the source. This was standard farm practice until the 1970s, when the pet care industry realized they couldn't profit from a bag of rocks. They banned this knowledge to sell you high-margin deodorizing sprays instead. Number 22. Cast iron scrubber. This 1960s secret will make modern cast iron enthusiasts gasp. When food burned onto a skillet, Grandma didn't reach for soap. She used calcium carbonate. By scrubbing with a stiff brush and a pinch of this powder, she created a mild abrasive that lifted carbonized particles without gouging the iron. Critically, it does not strip the seasoned non-stick layer like modern detergents do. This chemical neutrality leaves the iron protected, not stripped. Today, specialized chainmail scrubbers do the same mechanical job for $20, replacing this nearly free forbidden tool Grandma used for pennies. Number 21. The Musty Closet Cure. A shallow bowl or open bag of calcium carbonate in a damp closet was standard practice before central air. The powder is hygroscopic, actively drawing moisture from the air to prevent mildew. Beyond simple absorption, it chemically breaks down carbon dioxide and the volatile organic compounds responsible for musty, stale smells. While modern silica gel only absorbs moisture, and 1960 ES-era aerosol deodorizers merely mask smells with fragrance, Grandma's method eliminated the problem at the source. It was a functional, dual-action solution that required no synthetic chemicals. Number 20. Homemade chalk paint. Long before chalk paint became a $40 a quart furniture trend on television, Grandma was making it in her kitchen. She mixed calcium carbonate powder into flat latex or oil-based paint at a 1:5 ratio, stirring until smooth. The powder thickens the paint, providing a matte, porous finish that adheres to furniture without priming and creates a vintage distressed aesthetic when sanded. While modern retailers have turned this into a premium product category, the formulation is essentially identical to Grandma's yogurt container mix. The only real differences are the branding, price point, and marketing. Number 19. Marble countertop buffing. This is a secret stone fabricators quietly keep. Calcium carbonate is the same mineral as marble. In the 1960s, Grandma didn't call a restoration specialist for dull countertops. She made a thin paste with this $2 powder. By rubbing it in circular motions, she leveled micro scratches and etch marks without removing stone. Because it's slightly softer on the Mohs scale than polished marble, it restores the shine safely. Today, professional compounds sold at premium prices list this as their primary ingredient. Grandma did for free what specialists charge hundreds to perform. It still works today, as in 1962. Number 18. The shoe de-stink. After a physical day, Grandma didn't buy aerosol sprays. She poured calcium carbonate directly into her boots. Shoe odor is caused by bacteria thriving in acidic, moist environments. This $2 powder raises the pH, creating an alkaline shield where those specific bacteria cannot survive or reproduce. Unlike baking soda, calcium carbonate remains stable as a deodorizer for much longer periods. This was standard practice until the late 1960s, when the chemical industry launched expensive shoe inserts and sprays. They banned this common-sense knowledge to sell you high-margin products. It still works today, exactly as it did in 1962. Number 17. Flower Life Extender. Grandma would add a small pinch of calcium carbonate to the water in a flower vase when cutting stems from the garden or receiving a bouquet. The mechanism is twofold. First, the powder slightly raises the pH of the water, which slows the growth of the bacteria and fungi that cloud vase water and clog the cut ends of flower stems, blocking water uptake and causing premature wilting. Second, calcium itself is a critical mineral in plant cell wall structure and is involved in the signaling pathways that regulate how plants respond to stress. Flowers deprived of adequate calcium deteriorate faster. Modern commercial flower preservatives sold at florists contain a combination of acidifier, biocide, and sugar. The calcium component of Grandma's trick has been validated by ornamental horticulture research. Number 16. Porcelain scouring powder. Porcelain fixtures, bathtubs, and sinks were expensive investments in mid-century American homes. Grandma would mix calcium carbonate into a paste with just enough water to create a thick, creamy texture and apply it to porcelain surfaces with a soft cloth or natural sponge. The mineral is a gentle enough abrasive that it removes soap scum, hard water deposits, and surface staining without scratching the glazed porcelain finish. Commercial scouring powders of the 1960s, several of which became household name brands, contained much harsher abrasives, chlorine bleach compounds, and synthetic detergents that over time etched and dulled porcelain glazes. Grandma's version cleaned without degrading the surface it was supposed to protect. Number 15. Tomato medicine. Any gardener in the 1960s knew about blossom end rot, the black sunken collapse that appears at the bottom of tomatoes and ruins entire crops. Grandma would take calcium carbonate and work it directly into the soil. Blossom end rot is caused by calcium deficiency, triggered by low soil calcium levels. Calcium carbonate corrects the deficiency and pH. Modern agricultural guidance recommends this as the primary prevention. This was not folk wisdom. It was accurate plant biochemistry Grandma understood from experience. It's the $2 secret industry banned to sell you expensive additives. It still works today, as in 1962. Number 14. The grease eraser. Before spray pre-treatments and enzyme detergents, Grandma would act immediately when grease hit clothing. She would take white chalk or calcium carbonate powder, press it firmly into the grease stain, and let it sit for anywhere from 30 minutes to several hours, sometimes overnight. The powder has a high surface area at a microscopic level and physically wicks the oil out of the fabric fibers through capillary action before the grease has a chance to fully bond with the textile. Once the powder was brushed away, the majority of the grease came with it, and the garment could then be washed normally. Modern stain treatment advice still frequently recommends applying an absorbent powder first before treating with surfactants. Grandma skipped the second step because the first one usually handled the job. Number 13. 1960s tooth powder. In the early 1960s, before fluoride toothpaste was universally mandated in commercial products, and before concerns about government-mandated chemical additives in personal care were dismissed as fringe thinking, Grandma would mix calcium carbonate with a drop of peppermint essential oil and sometimes a small amount of baking soda to create a tooth polishing powder. Calcium carbonate is gentle enough as an abrasive to clean enamel surface staining without scratching the tooth structure itself. It is used today in many premium natural and remineralizing toothpastes. The FDA and the American Dental Association began heavily promoting fluoride-based commercial toothpastes in the 1960s, and the cottage industry of homemade dental products was broadly characterized as dangerous and unsanitary. The chemical logic behind Grandma's formula has since been validated multiple times over. Number 12. The good silver polish. Grandma would mix calcium carbonate into a thick paste with water and apply it to tarnished silver with a flannel cloth. This fine powder buffs away tarnish without the corrosive chemicals in commercial dips that ruin heirloom silver. While museum conservators still use this exact method today, big brands banned the knowledge by framing DIY solutions as risky to protect their profits. It does for pennies what pro cleaners charge $20 for. Number 11. The $2 deodorant. This is one of the most personally interesting hacks on the list because it directly threatened the personal care industry at a time when deodorant was becoming a mass-market essential consumer product. Grandma would dust a very small amount of finely ground calcium carbonate powder under her arms using a makeup puff or a soft cloth. The powder neutralized the acidic bacterial metabolites responsible for body odor while absorbing moisture, reducing the environment in which odor-producing bacteria thrive. It contained no aluminum compounds, no synthetic fragrances, no parabens. Modern natural deodorant brands are now selling calcium-based formulations as premium products. The conventional deodorant industry built itself on the premise that there was no effective alternative to their chemical formulations. Number 10. The ant electric fence. Grandma would pour a thick, continuous line of calcium carbonate or agricultural lime powder around doorways, windowsills, the perimeter of the garden, and any entry point where ant trails had been observed. Ants navigate using pheromone trails and have a physical aversion to crossing powdery alkaline barriers. The calcium carbonate disrupts their sensory trail, irritates their exoskeleton due to its mildly abrasive and desiccating properties, and appears to interfere with the chemical signals they rely on to navigate and communicate. Pest control companies in the 1960s were expanding rapidly, offering chemical solutions for insect problems that Grandma had been solving for years with a powder that cost essentially nothing. The economic incentive to replace effective free solutions with billable services was substantial. Number 9. Snail and slug perimeter. Similar in application to the ant barrier, but even more dramatically effective, Grandma would create a border of calcium carbonate powder around raised garden beds and individual plant groupings. Slugs and snails have a soft, mucus-covered body that is in direct contact with the ground. When they attempt to cross a line of calcium carbonate, the powder reacts with the moisture in their mucus layer, creating a desiccating chemical reaction that the animal finds immediately painful and physically incapacitating. They do not cross the line. They do not develop resistance. The barrier simply needs to be refreshed after rain. Modern slug control relies heavily on metaldehyde-based pellets, which are toxic to birds, hedgehogs, and other garden wildlife. Grandma's solution was non-toxic to everything except the slug trying to eat her lettuce. Number 8. Fire retardant wash. This ties directly to 1960s building codes established as America modernized its housing. Grandma's routine of painting wooden beams with a thick calcium carbonate whitewash wasn't just for aesthetics. It was survival chemistry. When exposed to fire, the mineral undergoes endothermic decomposition, releasing carbon dioxide gas and calcium oxide. This reaction absorbs heat and releases carbon dioxide to suppress flames, the exact principle used in modern fire suppression. By the 1960s, new state codes mandated commercial retardants, effectively pricing out these low-cost mineral applications. The chemistry was sound. The economics just preferred products you had to buy. Number 7. Natural algaecide. Grandma knew that adding agricultural lime to a stagnant pond or water feature would clear the water, settle the murky suspended particles, and dramatically slow algae growth. Calcium carbonate raises water pH, and most algae species cannot compete effectively in alkaline conditions. The calcium ions also cause suspended organic particles to clump together and sink through a process called flocculation, clearing the water visually. This is the same principle used in modern municipal water treatment. Commercial pond treatments and algicides introduced in the 1960s and 1970s used copper sulfate and synthetic chemicals. Grandma's lime treatment was completely safe for fish, frogs, and beneficial insects. The chemical industry had obvious motivation to replace her bucket of powder with a branded product. Number 6. The outhouse deodorizer. Before modern sewage reached rural America, the pit latrine was standard. Grandma managed sanitation by sprinkling calcium carbonate into the pit. This powder spikes the pH level, neutralizing odor-producing anaerobic bacteria that generate hydrogen sulfide and ammonia. The lime instead attracts aerobic bacteria, which decompose waste more cleanly. While 1960s public health campaigns pushed modern sewage and chemical products as superior, the traditional lime method was never outdated. It was chemically sound. Number 5. Driveway acid neutralizer. When battery acid spilled from a car battery or when oil leaks created staining on concrete, Grandma would pour calcium carbonate powder generously over the affected area, let it react, and then sweep it away. Sulfuric acid from car batteries is one of the most destructive substances a concrete driveway encounters. Calcium carbonate neutralizes it rapidly through a straightforward acid-base reaction, stopping the corrosive damage immediately. The visual evidence, bubbling and fizzing, confirms the reaction is actively occurring. This same principle is used in industrial chemical spill response. Modern commercial driveway neutralizers and concrete cleaners are sold at significant markup for a reaction that costs pennies to accomplish with mineral powder. Number 4. Tree sunscreen. Grandma painted fruit tree trunks with calcium carbonate whitewash every late winter. This practice, known as tree whitewashing, serves 3 vital roles. It reflects sunlight to prevent sun scald, or bark cracking from extreme temperature shifts, creates an alkaline barrier hostile to boring insects, and suppresses fungal pathogens. While modern orchards still use this method, 1960s suburban homeowners dismissed it as unpleasant in favor of a natural yard aesthetic. The practice wasn't obsolete, it was simply visually out of fashion. Number 3. The 17-state banned roof coating. This is where things get genuinely political. Grandma would prepare a diluted calcium carbonate whitewash and paint it onto the exterior surface of a roof, particularly on south-facing slopes. The high reflectivity white surface reflects solar radiation rather than absorbing it, keeping the attic and the entire house dramatically cooler in summer. Research conducted in recent decades has confirmed that white or highly reflective roofing can reduce cooling energy demand by 10 to 40% depending on climate. Homeowners associations in at least 17 states have adopted rules that prohibit white or highly reflective roof coatings, requiring homeowners to use dark shingles that absorb heat and increase energy consumption. The roofing industry, shingle manufacturers, and utility companies all benefit economically from policies that discourage free, reflective alternatives. Grandma's whitewashed roof was an act of quiet economic resistance. Number 2. Water glassing eggs. Before universal refrigeration, Grandma used a ceramic crock and hydrated lime mixed with water into a milky solution. By submerging fresh, unwashed eggs, she could store them in a cool cellar for 12 months or longer. The lime seals the eggshell's microscopic pores, blocking oxygen and bacteria while maintaining pH. This was a standard USDA-recommended practice until the mid-20th century. It was quietly dropped as the commercial cold chain and electric fridges became the mandatory industry model for food distribution. It still works today, exactly as it did in 1962. Number 1. The $2 AC replacement. And the number 1 hack on this entire list, the one that has been actively fought by homeowners associations, dismissed by real estate agents, quietly discouraged by utility companies, and is now being rediscovered by energy researchers and climate scientists as one of the cheapest, most effective passive cooling solutions ever identified. Grandma would mix calcium carbonate powder into water until she had a thin, consistent whitewash, then paint it across the entire surface of the roof using a wide brush or a whitewash brush on an extension pole. The result was a highly reflective white surface that bounced solar energy away from the structure instead of absorbing it. Attic temperatures in painted homes dropped by as much as 40 degrees Fahrenheit compared to homes with conventional dark shingles, according to research that has been replicated multiple times. The whole house cooling effect reduced the need for mechanical air conditioning or eliminated it entirely in moderate climates.